let's get started. The topic for today is machine learning lifecycle from basics to production, and a quick introduction about myself. I'm Sai Shruti Swaminathan. I work as advisory data scientist in a strategy team at IBM, and I'm an active trustworthy advocate. I'm an open source developer. I've contributed to TensorFlow and model. This model asset exchange, data asset exchange, AFNS 360, A fact sheets are IBM open source projects. And my regular work is about it, being a part of data science engagement and contributing to what's an offering. And other than that, in the community side, I'm a member and representative of IBM and Linux Foundation AI and Data. And I'm a member of Trust for the AI Committee, and I'm the chair of Data Ops Committee. And I've given over 60 talks in the past 2 years. I'm one of the Coursera instructors for data visualization. I have links in my slide if you want to, take a look at uh, it and know more about Linux Foundation as well as the Coursera courses that we are offering. And this is a quick introduction about myself. I love being in the community. I love talking to people and show the work that we are doing. And I'm super excited to share the open source projects that we have and information about it so that you can use it in your project and learn more about productionizing your AI models. So with that, let's get started. And before, first of all, like, thank you so much and gratitude for all your time, because it's the most precious thing. So thank you so much for joining us today. So what is in store? What are we going to see? Let's set the stage first, right? We are going to solve a client business problem using data science methodology, but with twist in the process. It's a shift from crisp DM methodology approach that we are used to if you're in the data science field. Also, at the end, we can see how to present the findings to our stakeholders. So that's a core concept of today's presentation. So let me introduce you all to our client, Dolores. I wanted to, make a shift from the regular presentation and bring the aspect of story to it. So we are going to see all the concepts through the story of our client, Dolores. Dolores is a CEO of telecommunication company, and she approached us with a business problem and seeking for guidance. So that's our, concept. This is our client, and this is the problem that we are going to solve. So this is a process that we are going to see throughout the presentation, and I'm going to give you a high-level introduction of it or high-level explanation of it. So the first, we start by having business discussion with our client, Dolores. Learn what is the problem faced by the company and understand the impact it created in terms of brand value and revenue. So after getting in-depth information about the problem, then we get to know if this problem can be solved using data. Not all problems needs to be solved using machine learning and deep learning techniques. So we are going to see some justification of why we need to use machine learning and deep learning techniques for the problem. And then we are going to analyze the requirement with the client. By this, I mean, what are the expected deliverables from the process? And now our data science team, along with the design and ethics board members, are going to gather to understand the unintended consequence of the prediction system that we are planning to develop. So this is a twist in the regular process, right? In the regular crisp DM data science methodology, we start with the business understanding, and we start with data extraction, exploration, cleaning, visualization. So we're going to take a twist, we're going to take a turn, and we are getting the ethics aspect here. And after we understand the possible unintended consequence of the application, get the data, we understand the glossary, make sure it's a good representative of the population for whom we are trying to solve the problem. And next important aspect that we are going to see is handling sensitive data. And once we are done with that, We are going to convert the problem that we are going to solve into data science question, and we are going to use our tools and techniques to explore and extract answer from data for the question. And we are going to develop the model, evaluate. Once it's all good, we are getting into the deployment aspect, like creating it as a microservice. As you can observe, in every step, I have added the fairness check, and it's there throughout the process. Finally, we will learn how to provide REST API to the model and get it ready for the deployment. And we will end with a good story of whatever we have learned when trying to solve our client's problem. So that's, the next next level of overview of the process. So let's start with the business problem. So Dolores, our client's telecommunication company is facing $1 million dip in revenue due to customer attrition and was looking for ways to tackle the issue. And the requirement here, like our client requirement, is to analyze the current churn data that they have and look for patterns. They want to understand why it is happening. They want to understand the reason behind the customer attrition. And then they also want to develop a prediction system. So based on the current customer information, they want to see if there is any potential, the probability of losing a customer. They want to understand the probability of using a specific customer, right? So these are the requirements that our client have, and they have approached us. So now we get into the justification part, right? So why we need machine and deep learning for the approach? As I have mentioned before, not all problem require like the solution using machine learning or deep learning. So in this case, we want to make sure before moving forward to get a good justification of why we need to use, right? So customer churn or customer attrition doesn't happen with specific set of factors. The factors may overlap, or there may be like too many reasons for the churn, right? So we want to make sure we understand it correct. So that's one of our justification. And second is scalability. As the organization gets more customers, having machine learning solution to handle them will be a lot better than doing a manual process. So we prefer using these techniques. So with this justification, let's get our customer data and kickstart the process. So now we're getting into the data part. Now we understand the problem, we understand the requirement, we exactly know what we want at the end of the process. And now we get into the data aspect of it. So let's get back to our client, Dolores. She connected her database management team with our data engineers. Here we obtain the structure of the data. We need to get data glossary. We need to make sure we have domain experts contact to understand what exactly the data is and what it means. And we get API to access the data, and we get supporting documents to help in the extraction process. So this is the next step after we understand what we need to solve. So the data that we have contains information about 6,000 users, their demographic characteristics, the services, the duration of using their services, method of payment, and amount of payment. So it's the crux of our data. This is what our data has. And with this understanding, you're going to take a turn in our regular methodology. In our regular methodology, we would have moved to the data cleaning step, right? So we're going to take a pause and then get into the ethical design of the solution. So here, it is important to have a workshop to discuss about values each party possesses and think about unintended consequence of the application. So what do I mean here? So we obtain values that dollar is company customers look for, and we start the design process here. So this is the mural snippet that you are seeing, which we widely use for design thinking. So first, we start by writing our goal. This include what problem we are trying to solve and whom we are going to solve and why it is important and why it is needed. And then we get a list of values and identify, for example, 5 most important values for our target audience. For example, privacy, equality, trust, fairness, transparency. We have set of values, right? So we get a set of values and we pick, for example, like 5 most important values for our target audience. So what we do here is, as a group, we discuss the values we want to choose and why we want to choose, and collectively get a set of important human values that we care for the application. And then as a company, as a group, we think what the company values are, and then we write it down. So we have 2 set of value list here. One is the target audience values, and other is a company value. And now we find similarity between them, right? Understand what are the common and contradicting values. If there is any conflict, then we need to think about how to balance them. And we also write what we hope and fear about the proposed solution. So this will give us clarity on how our application will react when it's put into the environment. Okay? So next is the layers of effect. So this is where we look beyond the primary purpose of the application. So this particular slide is going to be a bit of theoretical. So I hope you all can get the high level idea of what I'm trying to say here. And I have link that will be useful for you to learn more about this design exercise. So on high level, layers of effect will help you look beyond the primary purpose of the application. First layer is primary layer. So these are the effects that will come into your mind first when you think of a product. So this is pitched as the heart of a product, and they are always known, they are always intended. For example, if you take L, the primary effect will be, it's designed for people to review and learn about establishments, right? So this is clear, this is known, and this is the heart of the product. And next is secondary. This layer, these are the effects that might not come immediately, or this is not the defining characteristics of the product, but it's still important to company shareholder. For example, let's take Twitter. The primary effect is, it's a social media platform, right? It's serving as a social media platform. But the secondary effect would be it can also act as an ad revenue generator. So this is not the heart of the product, or this is not the primary purpose of the product, but it's also relevant to company. And the next is the tertiary layer. So this is important because this is where we get to think about unintended or unforeseen effects of the application. It could be good or bad. It's not always bad, or it's not always good. So in any case, they always surprise us, and they start cropping up after users have had their hands on the product. For example, indirectly the product might end up for cyberbullying or massive trolling or so on, right? So this is the tertiary layer, is where we start thinking about consequence that's beyond, that's outside the heart of the product or the core idea of the product. So at the end of this workshop, we make note of all the conversation we have, and now we are all set for the application design and data analysis. Yes. So again, we work with our, ethics board, for example, or governance team, for example, to make sure we handle data as per the data regulation, and all person identifiable information is protected, and we double check to make sure we use data as per the conditions specified when acquiring information from the customers, right? So this is a data production aspect. So first we saw the business problem. We understood what we need. We understood the requirement of our client, and we know what is what the data has. We kind of justified our approach, and then we completed our ethical design workshop, and we learned few aspects of it, and now we saw the data production part. So let's jump to the notebook. I know we all are so excited about the demo aspect of it and want to learn more through the demo. So let's go to the notebook here. So I have all the notebooks in my GitHub. I can post link to it. So first I'm installing the required package for my visualization, and I'm importing them. I'm extracting the data. Here I'm using dataset from Kaggle. It's a telecom users dataset. I have link in my notebook. So the first, we read the input data. The package that I'm using here is pandas. The function that I'm using here is read CSV. So I'm reading the input file. And then I have my glossary. So I typically prefer, having data glossary with me throughout the process, because it will help me understand what my results are telling me, right? What does it mean? These are domain specific terms, so it's always better to have it handy. So I have them here. And then we get into the data exploration phase. So this particular notebook doesn't have the fairness aspect to it. I'm not using any fairness toolkit to check, but I also have another notebook that I'm going to show you, which has bias deduction and mitigation step in it. So this notebook is going to follow the regular methodology process, and let's see what is the difference. So now we are going to see if there is any missing value in the data. So I have highlighted a feature here, total charge, right? So when I display the information, now I have my data glossary with me, and using the data glossary, I'm trying to see if all the data type is proper or if there is any missing value. The highlighted one, from the name, we can infer that it's an amount like charges, right? It should be in like float data type. Whereas here we have in string data type. The object indicates the string type. So let's see let's analyze that first. Like, let's see what is happening. Why it is displaying it as object type. Hope you all can see. So I'm highlighting a row here. It's a blank row, like it doesn't have any value in it. So that's the reason we have this data type mismatch. So the next step here is let's try and fill the missing value, right? So for the purpose of demo, I'm going to fill it with zeros, but if you are in the real world application, if you're actually creating your application for your client and customer, using zero will be the least preferred option. There are different ways. I have attached link to it that you can. We typically go with the imputation technique using mode, median, mean values, and there are other. You can even predict your missing value by using, for example, KNN algorithm, K nearest neighbor algorithm. There are different ways of doing it based on your data property. But for the purpose of demo, I'm going with zero. So now if I look into the information here, I have converted it into float and we're all good. So now we are getting into the data exploration part. We have cleaned our data and now we're getting into exploration part. So what I did, I took the problem and converted into questions that I want to ask. The questions that I want to ask to my data, so that I can understand what are the factors causing the customer attrition. So the business problem, again, we know we want to analyze what is the reason for our customer attrition. And these are some of the initial questions that I came up with. Of course, with your when you have conversation with your stakeholder, your questions might get updated and changed. But again, for example, I have these questions. Let's go one by one. I'm going to use Plotly and Seaborn Python packages to, uh, to get this visualization. So my first question is how gender, having a partner or dependent is related to the churn. So I'm using Plotly tree map and I'm using Pandas group by function to get this plot. So just by looking at it, right? Let's say you have, there's a 60,000 row data set. And when you visualize, can you see how effectively you can understand what's happening? So I'm gonna just, create this visualization. And I know this red ones are where my concentration should be because that's where the churn is happening. And by looking at the count, here I have 486 for female and here I have 459 for male. So I'm gonna click on the female and you can start drill down, right? You can start drilling down into the graph and it's going to give you in-depth level information that's required. And the next question I have here is, are we facing churn with customers with longer tenure? By this, I mean, if there's, are we losing customers who are staying with us for a longer time, right? Then I'm using histogram here and I'm using group by function to get this. And again, the telecommunication company have a lot of services. So I want to see if there is any issue with their phone or internet service. I'm using the sunburst chart from Plotly. The good part here is you can drill down. Like, let's say you want to drill down. Yes. Yes. And then you can see the fiber optic one has the count 1091, which is the largest of all. So similarly, I'm trying to, understand how the tech support is affecting the customer churn. And I'm trying to understand how monthly charge is affecting the churn. And finally, if there is an issue with the streaming. So once I have, all this information, we typically store this visualization and translate into a way that our stakeholders can understand, which are going to come at the end, which are going to see at the end of the presentation. And then we start pre-processing the data. So you're like, as you all know, your model need numbers. So we are going to convert all string values to numbers. We are basically going to do encoding of our string values. So here I'm using one-hot encoding. So I have, depicted this in a picture, how the encoding works. And then we get into the algorithm part, right? So here are some of the tips I have that can help you choose algorithm. The first thing, I'm super into the trustworthy AI part, so I want to make sure my algorithm is explainable. By this, I mean, if my algorithm is telling me, like giving me a prediction or an outcome, I want to make sure I can explain it to my customers. If I'm getting like loan approved, for example, I want to make sure why my loan is getting approved, right? So we can choose algorithm that's more explainable. And based on the number of features or the memory it can handle and training and the speed it can predict. And I have some notes for you all to go back and learn about this data imbalance. What do I mean by this data imbalance? Let's go one step and then see here. So I have two classes in my data set. One is the churn, like yes, your customer, you will lose the customer, and the second class is no, you will not lose the customer, right? So these are the two classes I have. But I have more number of data points. I have more data points for class 0 than class 1. That is, it's not 50-50 or even like, anywhere equal partition. So this is where your data imbalance will come. So when you actually deal with the real world data, we get to handle a lot of data imbalance issue. So I have some ways that we can deal. And one of the ways is using the boosting technique. So I'm using the AdaBoost classifier, the goal of this particular classifier is to keep, correctly classifying the example in every round uh, that were incorrectly classified in the previous round, right? Let's say in round 1, we have 10 incorrectly classified example. We in the next round, the classifier will make sure those 10 incorrectly classified example are getting correctly classified. So it's going to train in that way. And I have my classifier trained, validated, and tested, and I'm storing my model. Again, the goal of this entire workshop is to see through different process. So I'm not getting in depth into each algorithm working. I would like to show a high level view of how things work and what are the tools you have in open source world. So yes, so this covers the regular pipeline, right? And if you want to go with a bias, of course, we need to check at every stage if there is any fairness issue with the data or with the model. So we have this AI Fairness 360 toolkit that can help you. I'm going to reserve this for today because we have a session coming up specifically for trustworthy AI. And I'm going to use a different example, of course, but if you want to know, if you want to get a glimpse of it, this notebook you can take a look at this notebook. So I'm going to go over only the chart for today, and I'm going to reserve the entire process explanation for the trustworthy AI workshop. So where we can code together, which is of course exciting. So I'm going to send you all this link in case you want to get a sense of how to check fairness at each stage. So yeah, in the regular process, we start with extraction, cleaning, visualization, model development, evaluation, go to deployment, right? So we'll take a twist. So this particular flowchart is for evaluating, detecting, and mitigating bias before entering into the model building phase. So I have a path after data cleaning and visualization to detect if there is any presence of bias, and if yes, we mitigate it, and then we get into the model development. So that's a twist we have with the regular, the methodology. So we are going to see in detail of the toolkit, what it has, what it can do, and where you can use the toolkit in our trustworthy AI workshop. But for now, of course, we can take a look at the notebook. Getting back to our presentation. So just a quick recap of what we have seen to now. First, we saw the business problem, and then we learned like why we want to use machine learning and deep learning technique. And from there, we entered into the ethical design of our application. A quick tips on the data privacy side. And then we went over a notebook, which is going to explained how we are going to create the prediction system and how we converted our business problem into data science question. So we are done with our requirements, right? If you just recap, our 2 requirements are to understand what are the factors causing customer attrition, what are the factors that are affecting our customers, and the next is we want to create a prediction system which is going to predict if a customer is going to stay with us or not, right? So we are done with both. We did some visualization, and we got some information from there, and then we created a prediction model. So now, let's say we are good with the validation process, we are good with the testing process, and we want to make sure our model is in the deployable stage before, so that our stakeholders can directly access and play with it. For that purpose, it's better, we are getting into the microservice world. Microservice is creating your application standalone. It's a standalone one. So, and we provide a REST API access to it, right? Like we Dockerize it, we create it as a microservice, and then we provide a REST API on top of it so that we can use the endpoint and interact with the model rather than, getting your model to a stakeholder and asking them to play with Python and stuff. Right? So that's not going to help. So for this purpose, these are the initial requirement. We are getting into the microservice part. We are getting our model ready to be deployed. So we need Docker, we need code editors and IDE for updating our code. And in our previous step, we saved our model. We need to make sure we save our model in a location from where we can download. And we want to make sure we get a list of packages required for creating our model as a microservice. And then we have input, prediction, and post-processing code. I'm just taking a quick pause here to see. So this will good. I'm going to introduce you all to two open source framework that you can use to understand how to, create a model as a microservice. Right? So it's going to be pretty simple. We only need 6 steps to do it. Let me take you all to the repository. First is the Max Skeleton. So this is a project, I was referring in my introductions, one of our open source project. It's called Model Asset Exchange. So the goal of the project is to make the deep learning or machine learning model easy to consume. By this, I mean, we Dockerize it, we create it as a microservice and provide REST API access to the model. And we have a Swagger UI so that we can just access our model through UI. We don't need to go through a complex, the programming part if you're not a programmer. So yeah, so we have this 2 component here. One is Max Framework, another is Max Skeleton. And again, the goal of this webinar is to introduce you all to these tools and technologies, and we are available on an external Slack if you want to know more. So this Max Framework is a Python package. It's going to provide you all a way to add your input pre-processing, your model prediction code, and your post-processing code. And then we have the second component, which is this Max Skeleton. So this is where we make use of the framework, and then we also have other components that can help you, Dockerize your model, create it as a microservice, and provide REST API access to it. Right? So this is the theoretical part, and this is how it's going to look like. So this is one of our long-running instance. It's an object detector model. So what you're going to do is you're going to create the churn prediction, the customer churn prediction model that we developed a few minutes before, and then try to create it like this, right? Try to have a Swagger UI and create it as a microservice. And this is the endpoint. So it's a model predict endpoint. We can choose the file and we can click on execute, and you're going to get the result. Now see the difference. Instead of, if you're going to the stakeholder and just showing this the model and this is how it looks like, it's going to just, it's too much to handle, right? Instead, we just provide this deployed instance link, and we can let people play with it. We can add metadata information in case you want to explain more, like how this works, and it's all good. So to create this UI and to create a model as a microservice, we need to go through the 6 step, right? First, we need to log into a GitHub and use this Max Skeleton as a template. You have this use this template option. You can click on use this template, and then you can start giving information about your model location from your trained model, from where it can be downloaded, and you can provide list of packages that's required for running your code in the requirement.txt file. Here you can provide all the required Python package required to run your code. And then you can update the Docker file with the path of your model storage location. And then we are going to add your pre-processing code, post-processing on your prediction code. By pre-processing, I mean, let's say I give data as a CSV file, right? Your pre-processing can be you read your CSV file and you convert your string to numbers and then you give it to your model. Your prediction code is going to run your model, and your post-processing again is going to convert your model result to this JSON, something like this JSON, so that you can you can see here. This is how the model result will look like. So we have the steps in the Max Skeleton repository that you can actually use to create this. So in the repository I posted, I have already completed. I have already created my model as a microservice. By this I mean I have all the codes updated. I also have a video that I will post in case you want to understand step by step. So yeah, you can directly run the Docker. I have built my Docker. You can see I have built the Docker file, and here you can run. And this is how it's going to look like, right? So this is your churn prediction model that you just developed. And you have two endpoints, which is metadata, if you want to know the metadata of the model. By metadata, I mean what is the ID, what the model does, what is the type and license, right? So you can get the metadata of the model, and here is where you can send your test data. I have my test data here. And you can click on execute, and it's going to return your prediction result. So this, now you have successfully created your model as a microservice, and you can actually go ahead and deploy it. Right? So this, you can deploy it on Kubernetes or on OpenShift. So these are the steps I have. If you want to use the Model Asset Exchange open source framework to get your model as a microservice. Let's say you want to go one step further and you want to use OpenShift, right? And you don't want to deal with all the Docker file. You don't want to create all the Docker file, but just want to update the script, your pre-processing, prediction, and post-processing script, and get done with it, right? Then OpenShift is your go-to tool. So there is some concept called S2I. So I'm going to introduce this concept in this webinar, and in our next session, I'm going to go in depth. I'm going to explain these concepts in depth. So we have this open source to image concept that can help you build and deploy the model. So it's a toolkit and workflow for building your reproducible container image directly from the source code. You don't have to deal with all the Docker file. It's just going to take your code from source GitHub, source repository, and it's going to create your model as a microservice. So you can use the same Max framework, you can use the same Max skeleton, but you can entirely skip the Docker file creation part. OpenShift source to image concept, the feature is going to, the tool is going to help you create your Docker image and then help you deploy your model. And again, so this particular session, we kind of went through the topics on high level. We have the next two sessions. One is to understand this source to image in depth, and also a workshop to completely go through the trustworthy AI part, the fairness explainability part. And now we are entering into the data storytelling. So quick back, we want to analyze the data and look for pattern, and create a churn prediction system. So the approach we follow is we understood the data using the data glossary, we clean the data, we obtain the question that we can probe and the data to speak, and get to know about the reason for the current churn. And then we created a prediction model. So when, let's say you want to tell the story to a stakeholder, right? So I'm going to give one possible way, one possible option. How about this? How about you present like this, right? The first question we have is how gender, partner dependence are related to churn. So on the right, on the left, you are seeing the chart. Of course, you can't go and say, okay, this is the output, and you can just drill down and get the answer, right? That's not going to help. So we need to derive, answers for each question from the chart. In this example, the churn is more for gender female with no partner and dependent. And the next question we had was, are we facing churn with customer who's staying with us for a long time, right? So from the graph, you can infer and put it in a way that's easy to understand. So the answer for here is customers who are just starting to use the service are most likely to leave. And then we are going one step down. So what is making them leave, right? Is it because of poor service? It's because of poor technical support and so on. So from the start, we can infer who are using phone service with fiber optic facility are likely to quit. And then we predict the monthly charge. Is the charge, like, are they being charged too much that's making them leave, right? So of course, yes, the lower the monthly charge, the more likely the customers are to stay, and higher they are more likely to leave. And then steaming option, and then what type of contract the customers prefer to take, and this particular contract type is making them to stay longer, right? So based on the chart, we can infer month-to-month contract as it's facing more customer churn. So our stakeholder can actually get into this specific category, and then we can drill down more to understand what is actually happening. So these are some of the example. And finally, imagine like then giving a notebook and asking people to test your model. Now we are going to give them this microservice, this UI and the endpoint that our stakeholder team can actually play with it and understand. And of course, we are going to give them a proper documentation to know how to infer the result. And yes, you are specifically like automated the process and make it in a more presentable way. So yeah, so I'm done with the concept that I want to deliver in this webinar. As I mentioned, yes, it was pretty quick in terms of the tools, in terms of the techniques, but we have two sessions coming up. One to go in depth to the source to image concept, to the OpenShift and the Max model concepts. And we have one more following up workshop where we are going to work with trustworthy AI open source toolkit, Fairness 360, explainability tool, fact sheet tools. So these are coming up. So I'm super excited to see you all there, where we can go one by one line of code to understand. And all the sorry, is there any question? So I'm going to end with this amazing news. So we have, University of Florida and IBM has joined, and there is a hackathon that's happening now. And the concept is to protect environment resources and prepare communities for the impact of climate change. And we have over 6 weeks of free mentorship and community interaction around cloud and AI technologies through the hackathon. And over the you have like flexible time to learn, interact, and build a solution. And of course, you can use this solution that you're building to your portfolio, and it's going to be really helpful if you are starting your data science journey. I did this when I started my journey. I used to go and attend a lot of hackathons around uh, to expand my network, to create new projects, and show difference in my portfolio. And there's a chance to win a 100K prize pool, and you can register for free and start your hacking today. And then, yeah, and of course, I welcome you all to join the journey. And with this, I end my presentation and we can go to the question session. I think you have a question here.
Great. Yes. Thanks for the talk. We have questions in the chat. Just a quick reminder, if you have questions, feel free to post in the room chat. And also, if you prefer to speak, just raise your hand and ask questions. Please go ahead.
Question with any customer churn prediction system where you give lower price to customers to predict will churn, did you risk teaching all your customers will churn will get a lower price? And of course, here with whatever data, this is like a synthetic generated data and it's not a real world data. And it's going to change. The result is not going to change. Of course, the fairness evaluation, the ethical design, we are going to go through all, the questions that you are asking. So as per this data, the information that we got out of the visualization is people with lower monthly charge. Sorry, people who are having like experiencing high monthly charge are likely to leave. Right? So that's with this data, and there is no we have to go through the ethical design of the solution. And as I mentioned before, your design workshop is going to tell you how to deal or infer or how to deal with the fairness or bias issue that can come up. And the next question I have here is, assume the test data file purpose is to verify that your model is working correctly. Is this file populated with data in which you already have an idea of what the model should do with it? So with this particular application, I made sure the test data kind of reflects the training data. It's not the same data as the training data, but the test data should not deviate from your training data distribution, and it should represent the population for which we are building the model, right? So I have the next question. How do you effectively communicate your process of code to people who do not understand programming? It's a great question. So when I typically go and we don't explain the code unless it's being asked for, right? It's all going to be presentation in our initial overview to our stakeholders who I mean, if we cannot go and teach the code unless there is a technical team right there who's going to who can go through the code and understand the process. That's why I mentioned in my presentation it's important to use the model that you can explain, right? So those where the trustworthy AI part will come into picture. We need to have a fact sheet where you can translate your model outcome into facts. You register all the facts. We need to have a fairness checking system. We need to have an explainability package or explainability tool that can translate whatever your model is telling in terms of your math and equation to a visualization that stakeholders or someone who doesn't know the code or deep learning machine learning concept can understand. And then we also need to make sure the solution is robust. So we bring in tools and tools that that you can use. And to answer the question, we can use visualization, or we can use documentation. Is of course we need to do, but visualization is more powerful and the presentation is more powerful. And we translate each and every result of the model into the concept that our stakeholders can understand and grasp. That's how I see this going. It's all about storytelling, right? That's why I have a slide of data storytelling. It's all about storytelling than process and concepts.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, so I have this trustworthy workshop that I'm planning. Of course, we have it scheduled where I'm planning to take a model as a use case and then try to use the three tools, right? The fairness checking tool, the explainability tool, and the fact sheet tool, and give it like a complete package that that we all can use when we are dealing with this application creation work. Again, like I know we are upon time, so thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm available on LinkedIn if you have any more question. And if you don't have links or if you are missing links, please feel free to let me know so that I can send you all the links, all the learning materials that actually help me in this process, and I'm sure it will help you all as well.
Great. Thanks a lot for the presentations and also the Q&As. Is anybody have last minute questions? We can go over a couple more minutes if we have further questions. By the way, you can just speak if you want. I unmute everybody, so you can just. Okay, so Swarup, please go ahead. Sorry if I say your name incorrectly, but.
Yeah, hi, this is Swarup here. So I was more curious on the trustworthy AI and the ethical workshop principles that Sai Shruti was presenting. So what would you suggest, like for organization of a client that is moving into AI newly with its new solutions? How would you suggest to establish this with the stakeholders? I mean, is this something we're going to cover in the upcoming session, or?
Yes, so of course we are going to cover this in the upcoming session, and it also depends on organization policies and rules, right? Like for example, so an organization can have like let's say ethics board, which is going to govern the entire process, and you might have your focal points or people who are responsible for this design workshops to happen, for all the checks, every step that you take needs to be documented and it should be verified. So it really depends on how the organization culture is, but I can talk in terms of the general, a general practitioner who is advocating for trustworthy AI, of course. So it's important we start with the design workshop. No matter what, we start with the design workshop. We work with our clients and get all the values sorted out, like all the unintended consequences that we might expect from the application sorted out. And at every stage, like once we clean the data, once before we train the data, we use the tools. There are like about 5 fairness tools. There are like 2 transparency tools, and there are about 3 explainability tools that we'll cover. So we can pick and choose. There are some algorithms that's available in one tool, some are not. So we can pick and choose whichever we are comfortable with based on the documentation, and we can start using it in our practice, right? Of course, it's going to take time because we need to first get the notion of fairness. First, we need to understand the tool. But once we get hold of the tools, it's going to be pretty easy to use in our application. At the end, it's all about recording the result. Make sure, there is no impact on any specific population.
Sure, thanks for that insights.
Thank you.